Hey, how's it going? Back today with some more of my Super Nintendo game collection. The first game I'm going to show is one I should have put in my last video but forgot about. Championship Pool. You know, it's a classic, like, kind of arcade style pool game with a few different gameplay modes. Nothing too fancy, but it's definitely playable. The thing they could have done better in this game was the presentation. It's a bit hard to see what's going on sometimes, which does hamper the gameplay a little bit, but it's an alright game. Next game I have here is Clay Fighter. You know, this is a pretty fun game to play. You know, nothing too well done in terms of the fight system, combat system, but its presentation and style are very well done. Similar to C2 Judgment Clay, which I talked about briefly in my last video. It's the sequel to this game here. Another clay-based game is Claymates. This is a platformer, actually, where you play as a sort of a bouncy blue ball, and you transform into various creatures. It's a fun little title to play. It has well-designed levels, a great style and atmosphere to it, very bright and vibrant. You know, not as popular as some of the other titles on the system, but I'd recommend this game. You could probably pick it up for pretty cheap. Clue, based on the board game. This is not an exceptionally well-done game. I think there are a lot of things they could have done better, such as give you the ability to track things better, like remembering what's what and who's who, that sort of thing in this. If you want to play Clue, I just recommend playing the board game, even though this is probably cheaper. Now, this is D-Force. It's a fun game. It has good music, actually. The problem, like with many shooters, is that it's just too hard. I'm not very good at these games, I guess, but even relative to other gaming styles, shooters tend to be very, very difficult. So, I mean, this is a game you can pick up for next to nothing, and I guess it's worth what I paid for it. David Crane's Amazing Tennis. Avoid this one at all costs. It's just not well implemented. The controls feel awkward. You don't feel like you're really controlling your character, and it's just not a whole lot of fun because it's not very playable. Demon's Crest. This is sort of a solid action platforming adventure title. It plays along the lines of, say, Castlevania or perhaps like Super Ghouls and Ghosts, but nowhere near that difficult, obviously. This is also part of a series of games that include other titles such as Gargoyle's Quest. I like, you know, all the games I've played from that series, and this game is obviously no exception to that rule. So check it out; it's a fun little title. Disney's Aladdin. This is a, you know, standard kind of platforming game. It's not quite as well done as the Sega Genesis version, which is actually a separate title from this altogether. But it's still a fun little game. I've managed to complete this, and, you know, it's good for a playthrough or two. You're not going to come back and play this all the time. Death and Return of Superman. This is a really fun game that is kind of overly difficult at parts, like is the case for many of these types of beat-em-up games. It has great style, and it's a lot of fun, but the problem is I just can't get far enough in it. Donkey Kong Country. This is the original, and it's a game I've completed 100%. I think I've done a complete playthrough all the way through, like with all the bonuses, in about an hour and a half. So yeah, I've pretty much mastered this title. It's one of the first 4 games I got for the console. I think it was my 3rd or 4th title, and it's one that I really do enjoy. Donkey Kong Country 2. This game's a little bit darker than the previous one. It takes place in sort of pirate atmospheres and you know, darker styles than the first title. It's still a fun game, and you play as Diddy and Dixie here. I still recommend it. I haven't completed this one 100%, but I should get around to doing that someday. And last but not least, Donkey Kong Country 3. Another great entry in the series. Nothing to hate about here. It goes back to this sort of more vibrant and bright style of the first game, as opposed to the darker style of the second game. Overall, it's a fun title. Pick it up and play it. Doom. Yes, this game's absolute classic. Apparently this one's from Blockbuster Video too. It's a fun little game to play. I've played it through and completed it, I think on the easiest level, but I want to try it on a hard difficulty at some point. Now, it's lots of fun. The only criticism is the graphics are pretty early 3D, so they're not great, and the rendering is a bit choppy sometimes, but it's overall a fun title. Don't let graphics prevent you from playing fun games. And this one here is Doomsday Warrior. This is a kind of unknown game as far as I know. It's a really fun title because it combines like fighting game stuff with sort of RPG elements. Because when you beat enemies, you actually get to level up certain attributes that you have. It's a great little idea, and although it could have been implemented a little bit better, it's a cool concept to the game. Here I'm holding Draken and Dragon View. And these games are in the same series, basically. Draken was a cool game when it came out. One of the first kind of 3D-esque role-playing games. It's a fun title. It's definitely not as playable as other games on the Super Nintendo, mostly because you hardly even control your characters. They kind of flail around and hack at enemies as they want, which makes it very difficult, and your weapons tend to break quite a lot too. So yes, this game has some playability issues. I've managed to play through about half of it, and it's a fun little play sometimes, but it's not something to get too attached to. But Dragon View, the sequel, is actually quite an improvement, and it's an enjoyable game in its own light as well. What they did is they actually changed the combat system from kind of random flailing to more precise, kind of side-scrolling, real-time combat. So I like that addition, and it's still maintaining the same three-dimensional style, but mostly from a aesthetic point of view instead of a gameplay perspective. Dream TV. I actually bought this cartridge apparently for $8, and it's not a bad title. I was actually trying to buy Super Smash TV, and I bought the wrong game. But it's conceptually cool because it sort of plays like almost like a carnival game or something, or like a game show where you have to like go through these levels and collect items and do all kinds of things. Sort of a nice action adventure style to it. It could have been implemented better, and it's kind of like really retro when you play it. But it's a fun little title to play for a few minutes here and there. Nothing too awesome or enthralling. Dungeon Master. Yeah, this game is sort of in the same line as AD&D Eye of the Beholder. It's sort of that first-person view, crawling around dungeons and hacking at things. One of the things I liked about this is that you can actually resurrect pre-created heroes from like a cool warrior kind of shrine thing at the beginning of the game. It's a fun little element to it. But some of the gameplay elements felt rather primitive, and this is a game that's conceptually cool, but it's a little hard to play in this day and age sometimes. EVO, Search for Eden. This is definitely a unique game, and even though it's not one of my favorites, I like it because of some of the concepts that went into it. You basically play as different creatures, and you can evolve and upgrade different aspects of yourself over time as you basically collect money. And it plays almost like a side-scrolling game mixed with RPG elements. So it's definitely unique, and although it's not one of my favorite games, it's definitely something different and something to check out. Earth Defense Force, another kind of space shooter style game. This one's a side-scrolling, like left to right kind of shooter. It has some pretty cool and unique elements in it, like being able to select a particular weapon for each level, and also the ability to level your ship up to, I believe it increases your attack power. So, I mean, this is one of the better space shooters. Not a genre I'm particularly fond of, but this game's actually enjoyable because of those unique elements. Earthbound. If you're any amount of a classic gamer, you've probably heard about this title. It's sort of an old-school turn-based RPG mixed with cool storytelling, interesting characters, and a great graphical style. It's a very funny game as well. It's not a game you play particularly for the combat or anything like that. It's a game you play for the story and for the presentation and the way that they've kind of thrown it all together in a nice mix. So I definitely recommend Earthbound to anyone who's a fan of classic RPGs. Earthworm Jim 1 and 2. I've played these games for many years, and I actually liked them when I was a kid. I used to have Earthworm Jim 2 on Sega Genesis. I do enjoy both these titles, though the first game is really difficult in certain parts. The second game I can actually complete, and they both have a similarly enjoyable style and humor to them, but I like the second game better just because it's not so difficult. Equinox. This is a unique title, great action-adventure type game. Plays almost like sort of Zelda, but it has elements from other genres and titles, such as some similarities to like Prince of Persia and that sort of thing. You basically walk around in a 3D isometric kind of view. You throw daggers at enemies and you collect items and that sort of thing. It has a distinct playing style and doesn't play exactly like any of the other titles on the system, which is why I can really enjoy Equinox. Haven't beaten it yet, though. ESPN Sunday Night NFL. It's a sports game. It's kind of difficult to play, and the controls are awkward, and planning your plays is really difficult because the presentation is not very well done in this game. So I would not recommend this game to really anybody. And last but not least, F-Zero. This is actually one of the games I have a complete copy of, and I might show off some of the boxes and instructions in a separate video, but F-Zero is a classic racing game. It's sort of futuristic, it has a distinct style to it, and it's kind of fun to pick up and play for a while. I'm not terribly good at it, and it's actually quite easy to totally crash your car and wreck yourself in this game, which I've done a number of times. The other thing they could have done better in this title is make a two-player mode. It's kind of weird there's no two-player mode in this title, but it's still an enjoyable game. One to check out. I think I got this game complete for $6, so it's definitely an affordable title and definitely a classic as well. So those are the games I'm talking about today. Thank you for watching this video. And also thanks to anyone who subscribed to the channel, commented on any of my videos, and also people who friended me. Yeah, that's it for now. Thanks for watching and goodbye.